Hey folks, what's going on? Welcome to the next episode of the Coach Gav podcast. At the end of our last episode, I was trying to get a quote from a Coach Carter movie. Sorry, from the movie Coach Carter. And found it. And because we spoke in the previous episode about how on the SAS show I was watching, one of the contestants was saying she was afraid of getting to the end and being told she wasn't good enough. And then we basically stripped that back and said, well, actually, that's quite a common fear for a lot of us to have in our day-to-day lives, that what we do and how we turn up in our day-to-day lives in every capacity, partner, father, mother, daughter, son, how you work, sport, and any achievement, or any aspect of who we are as people, that our concern is that we're not good enough. And then I kind of got to the honesty part where I was kind of going, that's why I've sat on this program and planned for so long, because I'm afraid it's not good enough. The space we're trying to get into has gotten very full. And it's more so it's these fears of everything. So the quote in the movie being that, it's that we're not afraid of our darkness, or if we're inadequate, or that if we fall short. Our actual fear is that we're powerful beyond imagination. And I'm gonna write that quote down, and we'll lead off a separate episode with it, because even from a very early age, watching that movie the first time, I was like, hot dog. I was like, that's something you remember in here and then here. So really powerful. Back to the show, and kind of on the same plane. One of the contestants quit. So there's a thing called a VW, so a voluntary withdrawal, where if they're like, okay, yeah, I've had enough, I'm out. And for whatever reason, physical, mental, emotional, they've had enough, done, see you later. And he was giving up and saying, basically, he goes, no, he goes, it's too real. He goes, it's too real, I'm done. And straight away, I was like, that's kind of like the voices in our head, the stories and narratives we tell ourselves, this one person, two voice conversation where we play both parts, where we, point out all the potential downfalls and negatives of any and every situation, where we belittle ourselves and talk down our abilities and our achievements, and where we cast doubt and concern and speculate shortcomings. And even though it is an imaginary, fake, unproven conversation, because we may not have the proof to counter back, we often end up giving into it, because there's no balance to the argument. So the argument in my head of, I'm not good enough, I can't do this, you're shite at this, you can't play football, you're no good at jiu-jitsu, your artwork is shite, you're not a good husband, you're not a good wife, I'm unlucky in love, oh, I'm always broke. Any of those narratives, any of those stories that we tell ourselves, and the conversation just rattles around in here nearly every waking moment. And in situations where there's no proof to counter the argument, to say, actually, no, you're wrong, voice in my head, you're wrong, story I'm trying to tell myself, this is made up bullshit, and I'm not going to let my real life growth, progress, day-to-day living be impacted by some made up shit. So on the show, they know it's a show. There's cameramen there with them the whole time. They sign up to the show. They've seen it before. Okay? But the situation, and even though they're totally safe, like they're obviously not going to let people die or get murdered on a recruitment show. Now, people have gotten hurt, like they've fallen over and that kind of stuff, but that's fine. But in terms of like actual long-lasting, permanent harm, they're not going to let any of that happen on a TV show. But in that moment, now to be fair, they were being captured and they had dogs barking and they had hoods over their heads and hands cable tied and all this kind of stuff. And I can go, yeah, I've been there where sometimes things seem so real, too real, and you're like, nope, had enough, I'm out, fuck this, whatever else. And while we aren't cable tied and hoods pulled over our heads on a day-to-day basis, sometimes it can be a case of the frustration, the annoyance, the, oh, here we go, same bullshit every day. It's the perception we have of situations we're going through can seem so real that we just get fucking sick of it. No, right, I'm out, I quit, I VW. I quit this conversation, I VW this situation. It's too real, The thought in my head that this is not going to get any better is too real. I am done. Now, we've spoken about how do you counter that then? How do you realize that it isn't real and that in reality things are better than what they seem? They're not necessarily, if you're in a bad situation, oh no, I'm actually in a good situation. Sometimes you can be in a bad situation. However, it's not as bad as you think it is. It's not as bad as the thoughts in your head have you consider it being. So that's where journaling, for me, comes into play. Writing down wins, keeping track of the progress you're making. And the real superpower of journaling is when you're able to just flick back and look over the last week of positive things, to look back over the last month of positive things. And in some cases, when you're at it long enough, when you look at that nice little stack of diaries you've kept, of journaling, keeping track of your daily wins, keeping track of the people that you love and appreciate, your kind of your gratitude bank, all these positives, this track record of previous situations you've overcome in the past. And you can kind of go, okay, I know I can overcome it. I know things aren't as bad as they seem to be. And then it is having, it doesn't stop. It doesn't stop the thoughts. It doesn't stop the conversations. It doesn't stop the voices in your head. And years back, when people were talking about like, oh, I've got voices in my head, there was a general kind of correlation of that person's crazy. We all have voices in our head. It's the conversation we have with ourselves the whole time on it. It's the casting doubt on what is rattling in the front of my car. It's like a little monthly game we play is what's rattling at the front of Gavin's car. So that's kind of where it can be is when the lady turn the corner. Yeah, so it is a case of being able to look at parking the car. Yeah, of looking at the situations around and being able to have that balance of knowing that things are going okay as opposed to perceiving that they're not okay. Hello. What's up, kiddo? How are you? Good, and you? Good, and you? Sorry. No, you're okay. Apprentice. Yep. Yeah, so it is a case of trying to use that balance to try and understand that sometimes how we think things are going to go, and we can get wrapped up and lost in the what if, the worrying side of things, as opposed to looking at, like a journal or a journal or a diary or your meditation of looking at of how to balance things out. And sometimes it is a case of keeping yourself calm so that you don't allow yourself to kind of run away with things. You don't allow the voice in your head, the conversation in your head, to take such a, it goes like a horse out the stables, or a greyhound out the traps, where it's just fucking gone, like. And before you know it, the thought in your head, even though you know it's not real, it seems so real, and it becomes so overpowering that a fake thought, a fake worry that we have, our minds are wonderful things. The level of imagination and creativity you can get to is borderline worrying from the point of view of you're able to, it creates such vivid detail about if I do this wrong, then this will happen, then that will happen, then this will happen after that. And all this because you're like, whoa, we've gone a million miles away here without any actual proof. But again, we link all those situations or moments together, and we play the what if game. What if it goes totally wrong? What if it goes skyways? Okay, yeah, but what if it doesn't go that bad? What if it goes a little bad? And a little bad is fine. We all deal with a little bad. Not everything's going to be good. So sometimes we get so hung up on that. Well, the opposite of bad is good. No, an opposite of bad is good. An opposite of bad is less bad. And then less bad again. So there's a scale and there's perspective to all these things. So again, on the show, he knew it wasn't real, and also on a far lesser scale, Yolanda's watching I'm a Celebrity, and like again, there's no actual level of harm, lasting harm on that thing. They're not going to let people get hurt for a TV show unless the TV show is like How to Really Hurt People, like The Ultimate Fighter or things like that. We're like, oh fuck, like there's actual fighting here. But it's the perception of harm. It's the worry of it. So that's where, again, how do we balance it out? And the hard one can sometimes be with relationships, from husband to wife and wife to wife and husband to husband, and fathers to daughters and sons and mothers to and every combination of it, where we play out, and this is a very common thing, we play out both sides of the conversation. If I have bad news to tell Yolanda or anyone, I'm like, okay, I'm going to say this, and she's going to react that way probably, and then I'm going to have to say that to calm her down on this, and then she's going to come back with this point, and then I'm going to come back with that point. And I have just played out both sides of one conversation that might not actually happen because it's all made up. So it's, and even Freya's just hopped in the car here with me. I'm sure she can also, so basically we're just, I was watching that SAS show where they take the celebrities and they bring them out to like Morocco and they put them through the real sequence of the SAS training, but like, they're not actually going to die. Like when they've been captured, they've not been like actually captured by that. Yeah, there she is. So where they've ended up where they're not actually captured or that. Yeah. But anyways, one of the guys, they got to the stage where they were like putting bags over their heads and cable tying them before the interrogation. Oh, yeah. So he was like, no, he goes, I quit. it's gotten too real. So we're talking about how, he's in a safe situation there. He knows it's a show. He knows there's like a cameraman 2 feet away, like filming him being captured by like the bad guys.
Yeah.
But then for us in real life, how sometimes the stories and conversations we play out in our heads can seem very real, and they give us real emotion and real concerns. And those real emotions and concerns, even though they're based off of made up situations, cause us to have
stress and stuff.
Yeah.
I am like, oh, thank you. Doing my lawn. I totally I do that myself, literally the whole time. Even if, I don't know.
I suppose definitely as if you're nearly 14 now, you're in your second year of secondary school, and it's something I see with a lot of obviously with the girls at home, but also what I see with the people that I work with as well that are quite young, in terms of like, it's no secret you take a lot of pride in your schoolwork and in all your work, and in putting the best foot forward in as well. Obviously first year, secondary last year, it was a new format for you getting used to the exams. Probably caused you a bit of stress.
Yeah.
So again, how do you feel now in your second year? Now that you've experienced, I suppose, how did you feel last year coming into the exams, not knowing what you were facing into, versus now in second year when you have a better idea of A, what you're facing, but more importantly, B, that your effort and your system and your input is good enough to get you by.
Yeah, well, last year, in first year, I was shaking in my boots going into them exams. I was proper shaking going in. I felt sick and everything, and then I was doing them, studying, and I did them. I got them over and done with, and I was delighted I got them over and done with, and I was happy enough with my results. So it kind of gave me confidence for this year, because I actually have exams next week. So I'm not as stressed. Obviously I'm still there's a bit of stress, but that's you need if you're worried about something, that means you care about it. So
and then the stress and worry you had about the exams, was it as bad as you thought it was going to be? And then secondary off of that, then are you more when you now get, if you now get worried again about it, you now can kind of go, actually, you know what, I had this worry last year and everything worked out fine. So are you able to be more level-headed, or kind of more, again, we don't want you to not to worry, because again, as you said, if you worry, it's because you care, and caring is what makes us human, is what separates us from robots. But yeah, I suppose, how do you feel now, kind of going, you know what, I got a bit worried last year, everything was fine, and then do you find the experience translates over into other areas of your life?
Yeah, I feel I'm not super laid back. I'm much more laid back than last year about the exams. I'm quite happy. Obviously, I'm going to study and stuff. I'm not going to go in just hand swinging. Yeah, and I think even when I started back football, I was nervous for the matches. Every single match, nervous before the match, and then you're doing the match and you're enjoying it, and then after, you're like, well, sure, that was grand. I don't really know what I was worrying about. And the same with telling news to people and all that other stuff in life. It's all kind of the same thing. You're worried beforehand. You enjoy yourself doing it, and after you're like, sure, what was I worried about?
Yeah. And then even in scenarios where, say, like that, you've covered a range of topics that most people or parents watching this who have kids in a similar age bracket as you will also go through. School worries, sporting worries, societal, social, family worries, in terms of, oh, I gotta go have an awkward conversation with mom or dad or parent or whoever, or friend in school, or anything at all like that. oh God, well, it could really be this bad. Well, actually, it was bad, but it wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think it's quite good. You know, it worked out quite well that the topic I was covering came along when you were picking you up. Like, so I think it balances out, because that's kind of what we're looking to do, is to show kind of the whole mindset kind of both ways. Because again, it is something that, you know, I could see you being worried about stuff, and any parent out there as well. We can see when our children are slightly um, off balance, or kind of off kilter. So, and even though sometimes they'll just go, no, I'm fine. You know, more often than not, it's just because maybe, you know, we don't have the words to say to start the conversation, which is also grand. You know, I remember when Freya was years younger, and Freya had asked, you know, why didn't Mammy and Daddy live together? And at the time, I didn't have, because as I said, we were walking back from the church in Kilcullen, and I said to Freya, she probably doesn't remember, or she maybe doesn't remember, but what I said then was, I said, I don't have the words right now to explain it for you to understand, but when I do, I'll explain it. And because Freya would have been between 5 and 7.
Probably 6 or 7.
It's the second episode of all where we thought. Yeah, no, I was trying to avoid saying 6 or 7. She was probably around 6 or 7. But yeah, she was at a very young age where obviously kind of she was able to figure out Mammy and Daddy had 2 separate houses and all that kind of stuff. So it's okay not to have. It's okay for parents not to have the words for the kids, and definitely not with Mila, you know, and the girls will get that as older sisters. Maybe they don't have the words for Mila to understand what they're trying to say. Maybe we don't have the words for our kids to understand what we're trying to say. Maybe our kids don't have the words to communicate to us as parents, for us to understand what's going on, and that's all okay. So definitely, and again, look, we won't get too much into the details of it, but kind of we stepped away from GA at the start of this year, just like, you know, Freya's a December baby, so she basically falls into 2 age brackets for GA. She does half the season up like an age and a half, and then she does the second half of the season in her actual age. And there is a big step up. There is, as the game goes on, there is a, you know, there's a, you know, you're going against, you know, more experienced players, you know, more developed players and everything else. And, you know, even though, you know, we never force any of the girls to kind of do something that they're strongly against. But again, it was a thought out conversation. And it was a look, and again, it was, I suppose it was the perception, it was the thought of the, I won't be strong enough, I won't be fast enough, I won't be big enough, I won't be this, I won't be that, I won't be whatever. And through fate and good fortune and circumstance, it actually turned out, you know, Freya decided to go back. She went back to her natural age group, which was grand, because again, there was experience there was comfort there. You know, she had enough real proof to balance out the made up conversations in your head of the, oh, not going to be good enough, can't do it.
Yeah.
Where you're like, actually, no, I can do it because I've just done it for years on end. There are girls I know how to play with and how to play against and all these things. And then towards the end of the season, she got a good few run-outs for the next age bracket up, which was a nice little, like a trailer for a movie, or like a blurb on the back of a book, like a preview. Oh, actually, you know, I am able to hold my own at this level. And then again, you know, kind of after Christmas, we'll see kind of where we end up. Again, you know, if we go back, if we don't, whatever it is, the decision's the decision, we roll with it. So, you know, we give you the last few minutes here. Is there anything? I suppose I started a lot of this coaching program because I looked at it from the point of view of, if I went back and spoke to younger me, what advice or what conversation would I like to have with him to reassure him that everything will be okay. It'll all work out. It might be tough. It'll be hard. But that's life. But it'll be okay. What would you say to younger Freya of last year and before, or other girls and or guys in your situation that maybe don't have these conversations with their parents? Maybe they're just keeping it all in here or in here, and anything like.
I would say to like definitely when obviously like we like to, as humans, we like to kind of just deal with things on our own. I don't need help, I'm fine. But like I find I love like obviously sometimes it's awkward, but when I said it to you and to Mammy about the when I wanted to stop football, like at that time I was like, oh yeah, this is like this is the only option. Obviously I was like thinking about it for a while, but then I just did it. And then I would just say like keep going, because like it will, I know this sounds really cheesy, but it will get better. And if you talk about it, it helps a lot, because then you have more people helping you, like with a common goal, trying to like say, get me back to football. That worked. So sorry, I'm rambling.
No, listen, your my daughter rambling it's in our blood.
Yeah.
But again, Freya said two things there as well with it. Is what do you feel benefits you guys more as children from your parents? Do you find it's you benefit more when there's help from a skill set perspective or point of view in terms of helping you know how to do things, or helping you see things from, say, your mindset point of view in terms of seeing? You said there you thought it was the only option in terms of wrapping up and not going back, and as opposed to, okay, well, seeing the other option. So do you think teenagers, and it could be a 50-50, it could be depends on the situation, but, that's all we can do, as parents. We can converse and we can help you guys maybe see things from a different point of view. So what have you found worked or works better for you?
I think it depends on the situation. Say if I'm, just to put it simply, stuck on homework or something, and I don't know how to do it, I like a bit of both, like say a bit of perspective and a bit of help, because like your parents, like they've done school and all that, so they kind of have a bit of like experience. Yeah, thank you. And then like with other things, if you're worried about stuff, how if you're worrying about things that actually might not happen, perspective, like definitely all the way. But I think a bit of both is good, and it just varies on the situation. Really, to be honest.
And then another thing she said there was in terms of the, kind of, just keep going. Like at the end of the day, it is up to, and I remember when we had the conversation about stepping away, and I was like, I could understand her concerns. A, because Freya told me them, and B, I tried to put myself in her shoes. And I was like, okay, I could see how she would be worried about this. But then one thing we need to be careful of as parents is not to overstep the boundaries, where we end up having to basically be like, oh no, look, I know you'd be grand, and almost becoming forceful with it, where we definitely didn't want to push and be like, no, you're sticking with it, you're going to be grand. You were worried last year, and and all that kind of crack. So we definitely didn't want to end up in that situation where, like, our children have to be able to kind of come back to us naturally and be like, actually, I've thought a bit more about it. I'd maybe like to give this thing, a go again. So there's a balance with it. You can't be, we as parents, we can't be forceful with it. But ultimately, it's up to, the kids to do the work of by sticking at it. And even like that, I'm sure, when you went back, it wasn't exactly plain sailing. There was kind of, it was probably as tough as you expected in some ways. But yeah, any last bits on? I suppose there's also, how do you guys deal with teenagers? In terms of schoolmates and or people that you live around and you grow up with. I don't have to worry about growing up with social media being absolutely everywhere,
Yeah,
absolutely all the time. But again, I also don't have to grow up with the level of pressure or stress that comes with all that. So, and then again, just to kind of link it all together, is I don't have to grow up with the worry of the made up or the seemingly real pressure from non-real worries. How do you tackle that as teenagers, 2025?
Well, with friends and like schoolmates and all that, if I don't like you, I just don't like be around you. To be honest, like there's not many people I don't like, so everyone's pretty sound. So I'm fairly lucky with that. And then with social media, there's nothing. Really,
look, you have your Snapchat. Look, you have access to links we send you, but you're not actually active on it, and won't be for a good while. But it can be. Yeah, look, probably not a good example because kind of she does get on pretty well with most people, but like that, you're supposed to choose where you spend your time, really.
Yeah. And then
how would you, again, without like name a name, or how would you, if you had concerns with someone in your peer group, in your friend group, either someone close or someone on the outskirts, because for you guys, you can get quite big social circles quite quickly. How would you tackle that in terms of having awkward conversations with people that you're pally with, I suppose?
Well, like if someone was to say something to someone else, like call them out, be like, that's not on, like, but not in a rude way, just like say it firmly. And then with other things, like if it gets worse, then like I would probably speak to my parents about it, and then also converse with people who also agree with me. Maybe I don't really, like, hasn't happened in a while, so kind of rusty. But and then I bring it up to them, to the person directly, and I just say like, what's the crack with this, basically.
Nice. So again, communication.
Yeah.
And I suppose obviously communicate with anyone you have issues with, and sometimes the issues themselves will come out of stories or conversations that aren't real, but yet people don't know that they're not real until they're like, well, actually, that was just someone spreading bullshit or whatever. Yeah. Right, that is nearly 35 minutes. That is plenty of rambling. Cheers, folks. We will talk to you possibly afterwards. Someone's going to get her braces done, so she probably won't be saying a whole lot except for. Good luck. Catch you later.